It is indeed always a good time when we're about to do some grammar, so get out your English Workshop book. Okay, this week we're going to turn to page 165 and we're going to talk about the adverb clause because we're about to read in some text by Dr. Martin Luther King his use of adverb clauses, and so in order to do that effectively we need to be able to identify them and use them ourselves. So on page 165 I'd like for you to have out a pen to underline and add highlights. So please get those out and let's be ready to roll. Okay, to begin with, let's go ahead and highlight Rule 13E. An adverb clause is a subordinate clause that modifies a verb, an adjective, or an adverb. Okay, now in order to understand this, we need to understand what a subordinate clause is. So let's maybe even write these words above, like I typed them, write these words above. A subordinate, the word subordinate also means dependent upon the independent clause. In other words, it is a fragment without the subject and the predicate in the independent clause. So if something is subordinate, it means it's below, or if it's dependent, it means it relies upon another part. So a subordinate clause can't exist by itself, it's just a fragment. I'll pause so that you can write those words in, or you need to pause actually. Now that you've written in the definition of subordinate, I'd also like you to underline in the next section the word adverb clause, and then also in a different color underline these words. An adverb clause tells how, when, where, why, how much, and to what extent or under what conditions the action of the main verb takes place. So an adverb clause basically answers the same questions an adverb would answer, an adverb modifier would answer. Please underline the last portion as well. Adverb clauses are introduced by subordinate conjunctions. So these are key words. You will always see these subordinate conjunctions at the beginning of adverb clauses. Let's look at the list below. Okay, you're familiar with these subordinate conjunctions. Let's read through the list just so that you can hear them and sort of get them in your head. After, although, as if, as long as soon as, because, before, even though, if, in order that, once, since, so that, than, though, unless, until, when, whenever, where, wherever, whether, while. Now what I suggest is you kind of need to memorize your favorite 5 because you're going to be asked to write adverb clauses and you have to begin an adverb clause with one of these conjunctions. My personal favorites are although, because, since, and let's see, although. I already said that one. I also like unless. That one's kind of cool too. But anyway, you need to memorize about 5 of these. Okay, now we're going to look below the box of subordinate conjunctions and look at some examples. After the judge announced her decision, the attorneys held a press conference. Okay, first of all, let's look at the independent clause where the subject and predicate is located, are located. The attorneys held a press conference. That's the main part of the sentence. Attorneys is a simple subject and held is the simple predicate. So the part that's attached at the beginning after the judge announced her decision is the adverb clause. Number 1, it starts with the subordinate conjunction after. It has a noun and a verb in it, but it's still a fragment. If you took off the subordinate conjunction after, let's look at it. The judge announced her decision. That's a complete sentence. It has a noun and a verb in there, but because you add the subordinate conjunction, it makes it a fragment, and it's a fabulous adverb clause. I mean, it's modifying when the press conference was held. And so let's look at the next one. We will go on to the summit if the weather holds. The good weather holds. Okay, the subject and predicate, the main independent clause is we will go. Okay, so there you have the subject and the predicate, and the whole independent clause. We will go on to the summit. Now you can see where the adverb clause begins because of the word if. Okay, if the good weather holds. If is a subordinate conjunction, and that's the fragment part that actually modifies the main clause. All right, let's look at the next one. Because traffic was so heavy. You can see that the beginning of that adverb clause is because, the subordinate conjunction, and it modifies the independent clause. The Parks decided to take a different route. Okay, now you kind of get an idea of adverb clauses and independent clauses, and let's go ahead and go down to the bottom part here where it says introductory adverb clauses are usually set off by commas, but you can see if they happen at the end of the sentence, there is no comma needed. Let's remember that as we do the exercise. Okay, right now I'd like for you to write these words above exercise 4. The subject and predicate will never be found in the adverb clause. Okay, the adverb clause will have a noun and a verb in it, but it'll be made into a fragment when you add that subordinate conjunction. So we will be looking for the subject and predicates in these sentences below as well. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video so you can write those words, and then I'll give you the instructions for exercise 4. Okay, exercise 4, identifying and classifying adverb clauses. Highlight these instructions. Underline the adverb clause in each of the following sentences. Now go ahead and mark out the rest of the directions because we're going to do this a bit differently. And then I want you to write these directions. Write an S above the simple subject. Write a P above the simple predicate. And then I ask you also to highlight the subordinate conjunction. So there's quite a bit you're going to be doing with each of these sentences, of quite a bit of labeling and highlighting. I'm going to ask you to pause the video to write down those specific instructions. Okay, let's look at the example. We go camping every year before school starts. Now obviously the first thing to do is kind of look for a subordinate conjunction. You find it there, before, highlight before. And you'll notice after before you have to have a noun and a verb in there somewhere. School starts, and that's the noun and the verb. But now you can find more easily the subject and the predicate in the sentence, the simple subject and predicate. We go. So I write my S above we and my P above go for my subject and predicate. Okay, now that we're doing some of these, let's go ahead and do number 1. While we were camping in August, we saw a meteor shower. Okay, I find the subordinate conjunction while, and then I find right after it the subject and verb. We were camping. Mark those, and you can see the comma at the end of that, and then you see the beginning of the independent clause. We, subject, saw, predicate, a meteor shower. Okay, let's look at the last one, number 2. Meteor showers occur when rock or iron particles called meteoroids enter Earth's atmosphere from space. And this is also pretty simple. You can find the subordinate conjunction when, highlight it. Now let's look at that whole clause, dependent clause. When rock or iron particles called. So you have particles as your noun and the verb is called. Most importantly though, you can find your independent clause, meteor showers occur. So mark an S above showers and a P for the predicate above occur. Now what I'd like for you to do is some of these on your own. Turn to page 166, and I'd like for you to do number 3 through 10, marking the sentences just as I marked numbers 1 and 2 on the page before. Go ahead and pause the video and do all of these, and then you can return to the video and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've done numbers 1 through 10, I'd like for you to check and make sure you highlighted all the subordinate conjunctions, that you've marked the noun and verb in each of the dependent adverb clauses, and that you've also marked the subjects and predicates in the independent clauses. And so after you've checked all of these, close your book, put it in your backpack, because tomorrow you'll need to bring it to let Miss Naylor and myself see the work you've done as homework. And I'll be honest with you, you're going to need to be able to use adverb clauses in your own writing. We're going to begin practicing that this week. So have a very good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.